I wanted to talk to you for the blog because I read sort of your story a little bit, and I wanted to connect with you and talk to you about your journey and hear about your experience so that we could get this up and inspire more people to eat plants. So, Steph, tell me all the things. What inspired you to make this switch to eating plants? Tell me everything.
Well, the first time I ever was even introduced to whole food plant-based eating, it was 2009. I was meeting a girlfriend at a playground with our kids, who at the time were 2 and 4. And I knew nothing except standard American diet, maybe like low carb, but knew nothing about plants. Mm-hmm. And we get out of the car and we're talking in the parking lot, and my kids have fast food nuggets in their hands. And in the most non-judgmental way, from a girl I've known since we were 5 years old, she's like, Steph, really? Like, do you know what's in those and how that's not good for them? And she's an RN, and she just kind of started in on this whole, like, I don't want to say preachy, because it was coming from the goodness of her heart, like, because I didn't know. And she told me to read Dr. Joel Fuhrman's book, Eat to Live. So that was the first time I got that book, and I kind of got kickstarted then. Then we had a big life change and moved 800 miles down the coast, and we were on a really, really tight budget just to make this whole change of life happen. And I realized that the most least expensive way to feed my family of 4 was if we cut out meat and dairy. And so at that point, we started it just to save money. And I was making homemade whole wheat pizza crusts and, marinara sauce and doing veggies. And it just really was about my grocery budget at that point back in 2010. Well, then we were off of that very strict budget, and we went right back to meat and dairy. And I was always kind of trying to incorporate whole food plant-based things, but I have been on and off the whole food plant-based wagon 4 times since 2010. And this past time I started again, like on the ball in September of 2018. And it was really because I see the genetics of my predisposition. I see the coronary artery disease in both sides of my family that my kids are going to inherit. And I was really trying to get my parents on board, and decided that I couldn't just not practice what I was preaching to them. So in 2018, I got back on a really hardcore whole food plant-based diet. And that's shortly after that is when I found the meal plans. And my mom and my dad have both kind of come on board. They're more of like an 85-15% doing it. And I'm not 100% all the time either. But I love how it makes me feel. The food, since I found the meal plans, is so much better. Before I was, roasting some vegetables and making a big batch of brown rice, and there was no variety, and I was doing it and feeling great, but I wasn't really enjoying it.
So yeah, what I find, like, so do your parents live in the same town you do, or are you helping them?
Do.
Okay. So
no, they're close.
Okay. That makes it really convenient. So it's really interesting that you started this journey to like save money, basically. And it's fascinating because a lot of people think that eating this way is much more expensive. And you kind of proved that it was the opposite, just because you only had like this, you had a grocery budget, and you're like, the expensive stuff is the meat, right? I mean, I always find that so fascinating when people say, well, I can't do this because it's too expensive. And I'm like, no, this is like the most affordable way you can eat.
It really is. Like, you can't compare the cost of peppers, broccoli, and beans to steak and cheese. Like, it just doesn't work that way.
And other packaged foods. And I think what people do is, it's like, it's they swap the convenience, right? So it's like, yes, this way of eating requires like time in your kitchen preparing it, but you're going to save them, you're going to save money, and you're going to save your health, by the way, too. So amazing. Okay. So since 2018, like you like started and then kind of stopped and started and stopped. Okay. So how long has it been for you now that you kind of remained?
September of 2018,
Okay.
I would say I've been a solid 90% whole food plant-based, 100% dairy-free. I learned that my body does not like dairy. I mean, I had a congestion and a chronic cough my whole life. And when I gave up dairy, it went away. And I had never made that connection before. But I'm like, oh my gosh, I was sleeping on 3 pillows every night just to keep my head up to fight the drip from the extra congestion.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big deal.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, that's like a daily, like you were living with that on a daily basis. I mean, that's a big deal. I mean, especially because you didn't even expect that to go away.
No, and when I tell people that, like my sister teases me because she says I was always sick as a kid. I always had ear infections, tonsillitis, sinus infections, always head congestion related. I was on antibiotics all the time. And a couple of weeks ago, she's like, Steph, you were always sick when we were little. And I was like, it was the dairy. She's like, no, it wasn't. I'm like, yes, it was. It caused inflammation, it caused extra mucus, and in my body, it would tend to lead to infections growing up. And all of that is gone.
Yeah.
And I lost 30 pounds too, which is always a perk.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So yeah, that is always a bonus. So how long did it take for that congestion to go away after you stopped dairy?
Probably about 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah. Right. I mean,
not long.
Not long.
It was gone.
For something that you've been dealing with your whole life and have on a day-to-day basis, 2 weeks is like nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah. I hear that from so many people having like allergies or like other things going on. And they're like, it took like maybe a week or 2 weeks and not even, it's amazing how quick the body like changes when you're giving it like, giving it the good stuff, but then also avoiding the stuff that makes it harder for the body. And it sounds like for me too, dairy was something that like I didn't grow up with a lot of it, but whenever I had a glass of milk or whenever I had cheese, it was like I had so much mucus that my body, I mean, it clearly didn't like that and didn't want it. So, well, that's really cool that you were able to do that for yourself and also to like lose 30 pounds. That's great. Are you kidding?
Yeah, and awesome. I just feel better. Like I was trying to explain that I have 3 kids and a husband. So, and I'm the only one in my house that eats whole food plant-based. They still eat a pretty standard American diet. I do try to push lots of veggies on them. They don't always eat them, but I'm not necessarily concerned about that right now. I would like to get us there. And it's mostly the effort on my part because I don't want to listen to the complaining, but I should just suck it up and do it. Because my husband's like, I'll eat anything you make me. Like I could serve him the African peanut stew and he would eat it and be fine. But it's just not what he's used to eating. Mm-hmm. So I need to take the leap to say, this is what's for dinner. And if you don't want it, you're all old enough at this point, go feed yourself something else.
Yes, I'm such a fan of that method. It's so freeing. And so my experience has been when you present, food to your family like that, like this is what I'm making, here, dinner is served if you want to eat this. And if not, then have whatever you want. It puts the responsibility on them to figure it out. And chances are they're not going to want to do the extra work and they're just going to eat what's given to them.
Yeah. So that's my goal for like the next, through the summer is I'm going to like force them. I'm going to batch some of the best meal plans and say, this is what we're eating and see if I can't get them to come on board more than they are, they eat tons of fruit. My girls will kill broccoli and cucumbers, but in its raw form, like they just want broccoli raw. They don't want it in soup or that
Right.
sort of thing. So
Yeah.
I'll have to find some stuff and make it happen.
Yeah, and who knows? They might be really surprised at how much they enjoy these things that they would have never tried otherwise. And I think, I mean, Luann is not totally plant based, and although she enjoys probably, I don't know, 85% of the meal plan food, she eats it because she really doesn't want to make her own stuff. She just she does not like kidney beans, and there's a couple of things that she just really doesn't like, and it's like, well, this is it, this is what we're having, like, you don't like it, and it's okay, and then she'll figure, she'll figure it out. But I think it's a really, yeah, I think it can be powerful for the people in your life to go at it from that angle. So I am in full support of you. I want an update. I want to know how it goes.
I will let you know.
So tell me about your mom and dad.
Oh, my parents are fabulous. They, standard American diet our whole lives. That's what we grew up with. We're Italian, so it was a lot of, antipastas and stuffed shells and, ribs cooking in the sauce. And I had been, really on them about changing their diet to the point of being like I just kept pushing it, and they were finally like, fine, like, we'll try it. And my mom was first to try it, and she lost a good bit of weight. They took her off 4 of her 5 medications, and then she got my dad on board. And again, they're not 100%. When they go out to dinner with their friends, they get what they want. But when they're cooking at home, they're doing whole food, plant-based. She's always sending me recipes that she finds, or I made this and I tried this, and here, come pick this up. She just brought me a sweet potato cheese sauce the other day.
Nice.
That she
So
made.
cool.
So yeah, they really feel a lot better, and they're in their, early to mid 70s, and
Okay, I was going to ask. Yeah.
yeah, they're not ready to be old, but their diet was making them old.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see a lot, like, they just have more energy, and I feel like they're even just more vibrant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they both feel better. And my mom, every time she would go to the doctor, she would call me and say, they took me off this medication. They took me off this medication. And so it's just been really good for them to experience what it does for you.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that, because it's a reminder that, like, it's never too late to do this. It's like, as long as you're alive, it's not too late. Like, right. and also, I think, yeah, it's and good for them for being open to trying it, because I think as we get older, it's a little bit harder to make these types of changes. And so kudos to them. And I totally know what you're saying. My mom is going to be 78 this year, I think, and she eats this way, and she has more energy than I do still. Like, she runs around and she's like constantly doing stuff, and she feels great, and she's not on one prescription, medication, and she just, she's full of life. And my dad has had like some health issues, but I swear, like, if he didn't eat this way, I think that his trajectory would be much different than it is. So what a blessing to have parents who are like open to eating healthy food. I love it.
My mom says the same thing, because she tripped and fell, but didn't break anything. And she swears she didn't break anything because of the diet she eats.
Whatever works, like, good for her. Good for her. That's so awesome. Well, I'm stoked. So, okay, so you're on board, your parents are on board, your family's, but you're working on it. So it sounds like, how have the meal plans kind of helped you cement this way of eating for yourself?
I was always kind of a food prepper, batcher before I found you guys. So I would roast a big tray of vegetables and brown rice and have salad stuff in the fridge. And that's what I would eat. And it got really boring. I had started to kind of find some of those yummy cheese sauces that are out there on the internet, and I would make those. But when I found the meal plans from you guys, it just it makes it so easy. I've gotten to the point where my pantry is pretty much stocked. Like there's very few things in the bulk or spice section of that shopping list that I don't already have. I typically will do only 2 or 3 things a week and make 4 portions and just eat the same thing for the whole week.
Yeah.
But it just makes it easier for me to feed myself and feed my family, because like I said, we're not all doing this.
Yeah.
So if I had to cook my food from scratch every night and a meal for them, that would be too much. So it makes it easier for me to continue to do this since I have it ready to go.
Yes, I've heard that. This is actually, I talked to somebody last week and she said the same thing. She was like, batching the meal plans makes it possible for me to cook meals that aren't whole food plant-based for my family since my food is already taken care of. So I think that is something that happens often. So you're definitely not alone in that kind of configuration of your family and what they eat. So that's cool. Yeah. And you have everything kind of like right there done. Don't you like batch cooking is the best. It's like the best concept. Like even if you aren't whole food plant based, but you're like preparing your meals in advance, it's such a game changer. It frees up so much time and it just makes you feel like, okay, like it's like this reassurance that, you know, food is there, you know, you don't have to scramble.
Like, there's no more like, what am I going to eat? Oh, I'm going to throw some beans on a bag of instant rice and call that dinner. Like, no, I have something delicious. And I always, you know, freeze anything left over. So if I'm really in a bind, I typically have something I can pull out of the freezer. And it's just shockingly delicious is how it all comes together. Like you don't expect it to taste the way it does.
Yeah, I'm still shocked sometimes at how good stuff is. I'm like, how is it possible?
Right. It's like magic.
It is like magic. Yeah. Tammy and Jen are recipe creators. They are they really are the wizards. They really do an amazing job. And it's so helpful I think that that's the thing that makes this doable like over and over again and for the long term, because you don't get in that food rut. And I understand, like I've been in those food ruts before where it's like, I'm sick of the same 5 thing. It's like, I'm going to go nuts. And so having that variety makes such a difference because it keeps us interested and it keeps us eating like a wide variety of whole plant foods, which is like where it's at, right? We don't want to eat this, like the same 5 veggies over and over again, which is what most people do, you know? So aces, I like it. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing with me a little bit about your experience. I love it. If somebody's watching this and they're kind of on the fence, thinking about eating more plants, but kind of intimidated, not sure what to do, like what advice would you give them?
I would say just try it for 2 weeks, like make a 2-week commitment, because you will see, feel, and experience changes that are shocking. Like when I first started again in 2018, like not only did I feel better and lose weight and lose the congestion and all that, there's like a weird mental clarity that comes from eating whole food plant-based. And it's very hard to explain. And I try to explain it to my husband, but it's like when you eat all that good stuff, you just get this focus that like you can see through the forest again almost. And it's really hard to explain, and the only way you're going to understand it is if you try it.
I know exactly what you're saying. It's like this feeling of you just feel good, like you just feel better, and you can't really like pinpoint it, but it's this like overall like clarity, focus, energy. And I totally know what you mean. It's like that feeling that like when you feel it, you're like, oh, that's what they meant. Like that's what this person was talking about. Then you like get it. And I think that, you know, just suggesting to people or offering to people, try it for 2 weeks and just see how you feel. I think that's really good because it's not like a huge commitment, and you know, we're not saying like do this for the rest of your life. You can never eat, you know, whatever again. Like try it for 2 weeks, have fun with it. because it is fun. It is. I mean, even
It is fun.
it does get fun. Even if somebody, like, I've talked to so many people, they're like, I used to like hate cooking, and now that I'm cooking this way, like I love it. And so it's a game changer. What can I say?
It is a game changer. It definitely, it changed my health, my life, my outlook, it changed everything.
Yeah. And your parents helped too, which is incredible. And how awesome to have like parents who are healthy at their age and at your age.
It's right. It's
the best.
And I know that I'm doing myself a favor, my future self, a huge favor, like, because they do have, my dad specifically has some medical conditions, and I don't want those conditions, and I don't want my children to have them. Yeah. And I think this is the way to avoid 99% of those lifestyle diseases.
Yeah, it's like there's so little focus being put on prevention with health. And it's like we are a society who, when something goes wrong, then you take this instead of what can we do now to give ourselves the best chance to not have those things happen. And there's so many things that we can avoid through lifestyle changes, especially through, eating healthy. And also a lot of people I talked were like, okay, well, when I started eating this way, then all of a sudden I started moving my body more. And then all of a sudden, like I got into this, and it's like this beautiful domino effect that just like kind of creeps into like all the areas of your life. And so I love it. Yes. Doing it for your future self is a beautiful way to think about it. That's the same thing I do. So high five, Steph. Boom. Well, thank you for being on here. It's been a delight.
You're welcome.
And you keep me posted on your fam, okay?
I will. I definitely will.
I want to hear the meals that they go for. Okay.
I'm going to go search the recipe vault now and come up with some ones to start with.
Totally. I think there's one called Happy Family that we have that might be a good one to start, because we do make meal plans that really like cater to like the omnivores in our life and the people who aren't necessarily on board. So we do. And one of our recipe developers, Tammy, her whole family has like a different eating situation. So she has like a vegetarian in her house. She has one vegan in her house. She has a hardcore meat eater. She has an omnivore in her house. And, she's testing all of her recipes on these people. And, before it gets to the next stage of her recipe development, like her whole family has to like give it a thumbs up. So we take this very seriously. So I think with the meal plans, you have a tool. So work that tool and good for you. Keep going. You're awesome.
So are you. Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Bye.
Bye.